Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Business Profit Acceleration Group Coaching. We have a special guest speaker today, Bill Dietz from West Coast Media, and he specializes in, you may have heard of this, but geo-targeted marketing. And he'll explain a lot more of the details better than I can explain it. But the bottom line is his company, and we're basically going to be talking about, he's going to be talking about how to really understand this technology, how to take advantage of it, and also how to find the best person or company that can help you with this, to do proper due diligence. So it's going to be largely informational, and it's not the cheapest marketing, but we've talked a lot about target market and narrowing target market demographically, psychographically, geographically. And the more you do that and the more you can leverage and get high return on investment with this kind of marketing, the better your company can do. So it's for certain size companies, and he'll explain who it's good for, who it might not be good for yet. But I think this is going to be really interesting for all of us. Bill, do you want to share the screen?
Yeah, sure do.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I'll stop so you can start.
Okay, you should be able to see my screen.
Yep.
All righty, well, very good. Well, Jim, thanks for the opportunity. Just real quickly, I wanted to tell you a little bit about what I'll talk about today. I'm going to talk about two of the most effective types of geofencing that are out there and some examples of each. I'll also talk about the geofencing process, how that works, and also share some terms that you'll want to be aware of. And then I'm going to give you an opportunity to really grill your potential geofencing provider by asking them the right questions. And then finally, I'll talk about a few of our success stories. And then, I also want to make everybody feel welcome to ask questions as we go along. Any questions before we start? All right.
Well, no, just quickly, thanks again, Bill, for being here. We're really excited to hear what you have to say.
Sounds great. Well, real quickly, by way of background, I started off in TV ad sales management, and then I watched the viewership shift over to cable. So then I went over to the cable side. I was a manager for Comcast, Time Warner, and Spectrum Reach. And what I found was that the targeting for both broadcast and cable was really not that great. For broadcast TV, they were targeting based on age and gender. So if you wanted to reach women 25 to 54, men 18 to 34, they could do that for you. Then when I went to the cable side, they added psychographics. Now, if you were targeting men 18 to 34 and you wanted to zero in on those who were sports inclined, people who were active in their life, etc., those would be, of course, great prospects for a sporting goods store if they had the capability to do that. And then about 15 years ago, digital marketing came along, and I was just really impressed with it. We certainly at the cable companies jumped on board that revenue stream, and it gave me an opportunity to learn it. But the tactic that I was really most impressed with out of all of the digital marketing tactics is geofencing. Because when you think about it, if somebody's going to take the time and effort to drive down to a business location and to consider a purchase of their product or services, they're making a real commitment. That's showing a really high level of interest. So those are the people you want to target. And I'll just refer to the gentleman in that picture on the image to the left there. That's Milton Friedman. He was an economist back in the 1970s. He won a Nobel Prize. And he is the person who came up with the slogan that people vote with their feet. And that is very true with marketing and with geofencing in particular. I'm going to talk about a couple different types of geofencing. And I'm also going to explain what geo framing is. Geo framing actually goes under the standard geofencing umbrella. And then the other type of geofencing I'll talk about is addressable geofencing. Now, with standard geofencing, a provider can target pretty much any location. All they would need is an address. They can even work with cross streets and target an intersection. And the way it works is pretty simple. A line is drawn around the perimeter of all of the geofenced locations for the campaign. Then when people walk into those geofenced locations, they are added to the client's pool of prospects. And then video and display ads can be served to them on their mobile devices for a full 30-day period. And this is true no matter where they go. Now, it's important to explain the GPS technology behind this, because a lot of people get confused. They don't understand. They think they need special equipment to get this done. But all they need is for people to literally walk into a location with their mobile phone. And let's face it, almost everybody does that no matter where they go these days. And in 95% of cases, people have their GPS enabled on their phone. And that is all that a geofencing provider needs to be able to capture their mobile device ID and to start serving video and display ads to them. And those ads could be served across websites and across apps. And they also, in most cases, would be clickable ads, so it allows for engagement between the client and the prospect. Now, the single most important question to ask when you're considering standard geofencing is, where do prospects go before they come to you? And so if you were a Dodge dealer, then certainly people who go to Ford and Chevrolet might also be willing to consider buying a Dodge from your dealership. Also, if there's a competing dealership in your area, certainly those people would be prime targets. So what could be done in this case is any of those locations could be geofenced. Another very simple example would be for a personal injury attorney. They simply want to reach accident victims. And so they could do so at emergency rooms, at hospitals, car repair centers. The list goes on. Another venue that really works well with standard geofencing is trade shows. And I've talked to 3 or 4 trade show vendors in the past few weeks, and I always thought that perhaps 10 or 20% of the people who attend those trade shows will actually make it around to their individual booth. And I was floored when they told me the number actually is closer to 1%. I mean, think about the money they're spending to be a vendor, and now they're seeing so few people. Anyway, compare that to the ability to target to 95% of the attendees at this event and drive traffic to your individual booth. Matter of fact, what one could also do, instead of driving them to the booth, they could actually forego the cost of even being a vendor at the show, and they can simply direct the traffic to their business location or to their website. Another very similar example would be targeting events. And so in this case, a provider could target stadiums, racetracks, concerts, etc. And the same concepts would hold true. When a person walks into any of those venues, their mobile device ID would be captured, and then those ads can be served to those prospects. And then the final example on this would be customer loyalty program. What a retailer could do is they could simply target their own location. And this way they have a prospect pool, actually in this case, a customer pool of all the people who have shown up at that location. And then they can offer them a special deal to get them to return and to make a purchase. Now, a term that's really important to be aware of is conversion zone tracking. And there aren't too many types of marketing where this can be done. Geofencing is one of them. So in this case, what would happen is when a prospect walks into a geofenced location and they're served an ad, and then they go to the client's business location, that location would be called a conversion zone. That's what you want. You want to be able to serve the ad and get people to come to your place of business. The only other type of marketing I can think of that does that is direct mail, but I can tell you the cost of a direct mail piece compared to, say, a display ad is 100 times higher. Another important term is called geo framing. And a lot of people don't know about this. This allows a marketer to actually go back, and after a location was geofenced within the prior 2 years, they could take all of the prospects that went to that location and they can serve ads to them, moving forward. So the way it works is this. Let's say there's an event and 60,000 prospects go into that event, and maybe 59,000 will be able to capture the mobile device ID from. What would then happen is, and this could happen 6 months or even 2 years later, those mobile device IDs, when people walk in to their household with their mobile phone, that mobile device ID is matched up with the household IP, and then it's mapped out across all devices in that household that are connected to that Wi-Fi. But to put it in simple terms, you had originally somebody who had their mobile phone ID captured, and now you've got the ability to not only serve ads to them on their mobile phone, now you can do it on all devices in their household. And again, this can be done up to 2 years in the past. A couple of examples of geoframing. The first one would be, let's say you had a new coffee shop that you were going to be opening in the area. And let's say that there were many Starbucks locations that had been geofenced in prior campaigns. What we would actually be able to do, or a provider would be able to do, is they would be able to serve ads to virtually all of the customers that those Starbucks locations had in the past 2 years. And another example of geoframing would be targeting trade shows and events. So if there was a concert and they played a particular type of music, and there was a similar promoter coming to town to promote a band that was very much like the one last year, then a campaign could be run to target the people who went to that prior event. And geoframing, by the way, can also be used for customer loyalty programs. In this case, they would be able to go back and actually serve ads to everybody who went to that location within the past 2 years, trying to get them to come back again. Now, the other type of geofencing is called addressable geofencing. And the better companies in this space would have access to over 2,000 data research points. And when I talk about research points, I'm referring to age, ethnicity, education, household income, net worth, square footage of a house, what credit tier the people are on, just a ton of information. And so what would have to happen is 5 or 6 data points would need to be selected, and this would be in consultation with the client. And then ads can be served to only the households and businesses that check every single box. In other words, all 5 or 6 of those criteria points would be relevant to people that they're targeting. So in that case, really nobody is going to be served an ad unless they, again, check every box. Now, with addressable geofencing, most companies can target a specific list of addresses if you provide it to them. And the better companies can actually target 1 million or more households or businesses. And of course, that all is contingent upon the client's budget level. And then also, addressable geofencing is most often used in conjunction with other digital marketing tactics. There are only a few cases where it could really be used well as a standalone. A couple of other applications for addressable geofencing. One would be direct mail. What would happen is if the mail was going to be delivered in 2 weeks from now, digital ads could be served to those recipients in advance to give them a heads up that that piece of direct mail is on its way. Then after the direct mail piece is received, for the week or two after that date, ads can be served reminding the person that that direct mail piece is still sitting on their kitchen table and that there's a great offer waiting for them. With addressable geofencing, all types of ads could be served. It could be display ads, it could be pre-roll video, it could even be streaming TV ads. But there really are no limits because, again, with addressable geofencing, you're actually in their household and you've got access to every single device. Now, here's one example of an addressable geofencing campaign. This is a reverse mortgage lender, and they wanted to reach owner-occupied single-family residences where the inhabitants were aged 65 plus. Their home value had to be between $300,000 and $1.2 million, and their loan-to-value ratio had to be less than 50%. So what you see on the right-hand side is a bunch of blue circles. In each one of those circles is a number. That's the number of prospects within that zip code +4 that meet the exact criteria that is being pursued by this particular client. And so before the client even starts their campaign, they know exactly what they're looking at. In the top left-hand corner, you'll see the number 6489. That's the total number of available prospects for this particular geographical area. Now, I want to share with you the top 15 questions to ask a geofencing provider. The first one pertains to precision. And in this case, smaller is better. Because if the provider tells you that they can target a full city block, that's really not great targeting based on today's standards. There are some providers that can target a single building, and that certainly is better. But the absolute best providers can target an area as small as 25 square feet. So I'll give you an example. In this case, let's consider a personal injury attorney. They could target a full city block, and maybe the hospital will be one building on that block. But compare the amount of waste that would be involved there to literally targeting just the emergency room within a hospital. Another key question is, how many locations can you target? That's a question you're going to want to ask the provider. And amazingly, there are some that will only target one building for a $1,500 monthly budget. And I can tell you right up front, that's way too expensive, and the campaign will not work well. You really should look for companies that can target 20 or more locations for that price. You'll have a much more customized plan. There'll be much better opportunities to optimize the campaign. As far as where the ads are delivered, that also varies by company. Some can only deliver them on mobile phones. Others can add tablets, laptops, and desktops. But again, the very best ones can, in addition to those devices, they could also include large screen TVs. As far as the number of ad sizes that would be needed for a display ad campaign, typically it would be 7 different ad sizes, and the better companies out there would be able to create these ads for you. And as you can see on the screen is a list of the standard sizes right there. Now, here's a really important question. Can I make changes during the campaign? Now, a lot of geofencing providers, for them, it's just set it and forget it. They won't allow you to make any changes. But the reality is you should be able to change the creative because there might be a very compelling need to do so, as the campaign progresses. Also, you'll have access, again, with the better providers to a digital dashboard. And so you'll be able to see which locations are performing better than others. And that's where optimization can really kick in, because if you're delivering a bunch of ads to a location and nobody is clicking on that ad, then you should probably redirect them to one of the other locations on the campaign that's doing a better job of that. Now, it's also important to be able to target during specific time periods of, during the day, because again, some of the companies out there, they'll actually run your ad 24/7 without any thought to the need to zero in on a tighter time frame. But let's say you're running a recruitment campaign to target white collar workers in a particular business vertical. Well, in that case, you really only want to target that area between, say, 9 and 5 during the working hours of the day. No point in wasting your money targeting the security guards and the cleaning crew. I also mentioned conversion zone tracking earlier. Now, most companies don't provide that service, but you're going to want to really partner with somebody who does. And again, that's going to allow you to monitor foot traffic back to your location after somebody has seen your ad. As far as geoframing goes, you want to know if they can do that, because that would be particularly important to companies that participate in trade shows and events. And also, it's a very great tactic for new business owners who need to quickly target the prospects of their top competitors within that geographical area. As far as the industries that do the best, here's a short list of 11, but the list goes way further than this. I could probably tell you 20 or 25 pretty quickly, but I'll just leave this on the screen for a quick minute for you to take a look. Now, you also want to know what type of reporting the company is going to provide, because a lot of them are going to just give you a bottom line report. They'll tell you how many impressions they delivered, how many clicks there were, and what the click-through rates are. What you want is the ability of that company to actually take those campaign metrics and drill down and provide you with this data based on device, based on the website that you're serving the ads to, based on apps, etc. And so the better companies can provide you with pretty lengthy metrics for your campaign. Now, geofencing global markets is not important to most, but it's a quick indication of, and it's a great way really to separate the better companies from the average companies. If a company has the ability to geofence internationally, that's a pretty good sign that it's a very good platform that you're on. Now, here's a really good question to ask. You should ask if you do a geofencing campaign with the provider, how will that fit in with your other marketing efforts? And if the provider says, oh, you can cancel everything else, all you need to do is geofencing, it's the end-all solution, well, in that case, they're not being honest with you. Because as I stated, in most cases, geofencing campaigns also include other digital tactics. And one of the few cases, or a couple of the few cases where geofencing could be a standalone tactic would be trade shows and event targeting. You also want to know what their process is for developing a strategy for the geofencing campaign. If they don't understand your business, and if the provider is not asking you many questions, then that's a red flag. Because if you don't do your homework up front and make sure you're targeting the right audience and that the provider is in sync with your goals and objectives, the campaign will not go well. And also, if you're dealing with a company that's only going to allow you one location for $1,500 a month, there's going to be very little room to optimize that campaign and to create a strategy. Because again, as the campaign progresses, you're going to see what's working well and what's not working, and you're going to want to be able to make changes on the fly. You also want to ask the company what separates them from the other geofencing providers out there. And so you want to hear about just how precise they can get. You also want to make sure that they don't try to hook you into a long-term contract, because a lot of companies will try to sign you up for a 1 or 2 year deal. The reality is any marketing campaign should run at least 3 months. We recommend anything between 3 and 6 months, but we don't try to sell anybody on anything longer than that, because certainly as the campaign, we're confident that as the campaign progresses, that people will want to stay on board. You also want to make sure that you're going to get a high level of reporting. You want to make sure that the company, again, provides a good strategy, that they're capable of executing the campaign to meet your expectations, and that they're going to optimize it along the way. Now, here's kind of where the rubber hits the road. You want to ask how the provider's average click-through rate compares to the industry standard. Because when you think about it, that's really all a marketer can do. All they can do is get as many people as possible to be interested in the ad by, again, serving it to the right audience and making sure the ad is compelling, has a strong call to action. Because you want to just give the advertiser as many opportunities as possible to convert new business. And so if you're getting 3 times as many people to that landing page as the average digital marketer, then that's really about as good as it's going to get. And that's a pretty good indicator that that's a provider that you may want to talk further with about working closely with moving forward. I wanted to share a couple of our success stories. We currently have a lender on, and what he wanted to do is to reach business owners within specific zip codes within the greater Sacramento area. And so he wanted to reach them in their household, but he also wanted to reach them at various banks throughout the metro area. And, we're talking B of A, US Bank, Wells Fargo, et cetera. And so in addition to targeting those banks, we actually included the adjacent ATMs for those banks, but that was relevant as well. And the bottom line is that their campaign generated a click-through rate that, again, is 3 times the industry standard. And we actually sent 883 interested prospects to this client's landing pages just in the first 5 months of their campaign. And the reality is, all they have to do is close a couple of these loans and they'll be way ahead of the game. So it's a numbers game. We deliver a ton of impressions for each prospect that we target. And that is really what's necessary these days to break through all the marketing clutter out there and to basically move customers through the journey as they go through the 4 steps, meaning attention, interest, desire, action. And so this campaign is still running, and we anticipate that it's going to be extended to run further. We also ran a campaign, a grand opening campaign for an assisted living facility out in Cameron Park. And in this case, they wanted to reach women 55 plus who are the daughters of prospective residents. And also they had to have a net worth of $250,000 or greater. So in this case, we targeted prospects in their homes and also at competitor locations. And the end result was this campaign went really well. We actually delivered 4 times the industry standard in terms of click-through rate. And we sent 416 interested prospects to the client's landing page just in the first 2 months of this campaign. Now, we have a long-term client that we've been working with in a Southern California city. It's an environmental services department, and they wanted to reach business owners and encourage them to recycle. And so we ran a pretty significant video campaign for them. And again, the click-through rate was well above average. But what really impressed them was the video completion rate for the over-the-top television portion of their campaign. The video completion rate was, as you can see, 95.81%, which is insane. It means almost everybody watched the entire commercial. If you compare that, and again, keep in mind, I came from broadcast and cable, and I mean, that number that you're looking at there just dwarfs numbers on both broadcast and cable. And this client so far has run 10 campaigns with us, and they've already advised us that they definitely will continue to stay the course. Now, a couple of reasons why people choose us. First thing is we've got the ability to target all of their prospects, whether they're expressing interest online or offline. We also are on the absolute best geofencing platform in the country. And the platform that we are on until recently was only available to Fortune 500 companies. In order to get on this platform, you had to spend $20,000 or $30,000 per month and commit to a 2 to 3 year deal. Well, we were able to work a deal out where we can now offer access to this very same platform to our local and regional clients. we have the ability also to run our ads across millions of websites and over 700,000 apps. And so what that allows us to do is to deliver a very high reach and frequency level, even if our client is going after a very niche audience. And that's pretty powerful right there. Far as guaranteed impressions, every single campaign that we have ever run has either achieved or overachieved based on the impressions that we had guaranteed up front. And it's pretty easy for us to do because along with our clients, we have access to a dashboard that we customize for each one of them. And it allows 24 access, not only for them, but for us. So we're able to make sure that everything is on track for that campaign, that the ads are being served evenly each day of the campaign. And again, we're watching on the fly to see what's working and what's not. We've got a team of people doing it. We also use artificial intelligence. We can actually see when a prospect has engaged with our client based on various campaign metrics. And so what we can at that point do is we could either provide a more targeted ad to those particular clients who have already clicked on the ad. It's actually called click retargeting. We can also choose to simply divert those additional ads and run them in front, put them in front of other prospects for that advertising, rather than continuing to serve to the same person who already is connected with our client. And by the way, with our dashboard, and I've not come across anybody who does this. We actually allow our clients to migrate any other digital marketing campaigns that they're running to our dashboard, and they can continue to work with the other vendors, but this way they'll have everything in one place. And so what we'll do is we'll actually monitor the metrics of the campaigns that they're running, and we'll actually offer advice to them. We'll perhaps say that the campaign that you're running with client A is doing great. You need to double down and continue. Or we might say to them, the campaign you're running with vendor B is a disaster. You really want to get that thing canceled as quickly as you can. And our clients are busy, so they appreciate the fact that we're looking out for them on the marketing front. This way they can concentrate on their main business. And that's pretty much all I had to share with you. I've just put on the screen my contact information, so anybody listening in on this call or participating can certainly reach out to me, and I'll be happy to schedule a meeting with them, either in person or via Zoom. And so I guess, Jim, I'll throw it back to you and see if there's any questions from you or anybody else on our call. I think you're on mute.
All right, I'm off mute now. I wanted to let you guys have a chance to ask questions. I have a couple of them written down. And Bill, I want to thank you again very much for being here, for your expertise. I have been studying marketing for 17 years, and I learned a ton today. So I think it's really fascinating, and it's valuable information for our futures. I think I'll throw out one question, because I think one of the things that small business owners might struggle with, including myself, like it's really easy to help someone else with their marketing, but our own marketing, what do you think are the top 5 factors that we should really take a look at? Like if you were going to create a compelling, irresistible ad for a client, Bill, what questions would you ask, and what would you think would be the most important considerations?
Well, the first thing to think of, one of the examples I often use is if you were a Ford dealer. I mean, what Ford, let's think about what Ford does best. They sell trucks. I would encourage any Ford dealer to not try to put forth a campaign to sell their lesser models, like say a Ford Focus. And the reason I say that is because if you put in front of your prospects the single most popular product or service that you offer, you're going to do a lot better because you're going to have more people who are really interested. But in addition, just by getting people to come down and into your place of business or to contact you, they may end up buying, in this case, a different Ford vehicle. But at least you've gotten that many more people engaged in the process by putting your best foot forward. The other thing is, and this is true for a client that we've run campaigns for in the past that offers various aesthetic procedures. They do like 25 different procedures. And so what we did with them is we had them run their most popular, a great deal on their most popular procedure. The thinking being, let's just get them into your place of business. They'll see how professional you are. They'll see how many different services you offer, and then you can upsell them. Very simple. And also, it's important to really put a great deal out there. In other words, whatever you can afford to do in terms of a discount, because people really, let's face it, especially in this economy today, they're really looking for good deals. And, I wouldn't even really necessarily worry so much about, making a ton of money on that campaign based on that specific ad that you're running, because maybe there's not a huge margin because you've discounted it to that level. But think about all of the new prospects that you potentially are turning into customers that you can upsell moving forward. Again, it's a long-term strategy for your business, but I think it's definitely the best route to go.
Okay, just kind of paraphrase a little bit. So Ford was an example you used to really put your best foot forward, your best offer first, and Ford shouldn't focus on focus. That's a little
right, pretty much.
They should focus on truck. Okay, so that was a great point. And then your offer, I think we have to be careful with discounts, not to oppose your great advice, but I just think it's a wise business practice. But what I really gleaned from your tips there is we want to offer what people want or what they think they want, not necessarily what we know that they need.
Right. You also don't want to offer something that you're trying to get rid of. You've got too much inventory left, et cetera, because there's a reason that people weren't interested in the first place. So why are they going to be interested now?
Gotcha.
So one of the things I noticed, Jim, did you have anything else?
No, please go.
Okay. I've got Ring camera on my house, and I just noticed that it actually has a option for turning off geofencing. So that means you're not going to catch them at home, but you catch them somewhere else, or you're just not going to catch certain people that have Ring. And is that something that's going to become more common with more security systems?
Yeah, I haven't actually run across that. I mean, the reality is I actually had a meeting with a person about a week ago, and, he's a real geek kind of person. He really, prides himself in knowing everything with regard to computers. And so he is one of the few that will actually go out of his way to make sure that ads can't get served to him. Thankfully, from my point of view, he's an outlier. There aren't many people like that. But, you are going to have some. I mean, if you really want to go the distance to avoid ads or to limit them, it can be done. But the great majority of people really don't go to that length. As far as Ring's capability, I guess that's just an option. So, hard to say how many people would engage that option.
Okay. I just happened to notice it as I was putting things together on mine and saw it there. And it's like, oh, well, that's interesting since we've been talking about the geofencing.
Right. I'm actually going to talk to our head planner about that, see if he's heard anything about that.
Okay.
And I thought something might be fun, Bill, is to use us as examples. I'm thinking like Kate, maybe there's a convention in Sacramento for home decor, and she could geofence and for her, home redecorating business, remodeling. And maybe you could do that for each of us, because you have a lot more experience in how this could be used for different
Oh,
businesses.
yeah. Well, no, it could definitely work great for somebody like Kate with, you know, as far as home improvement category. Obviously, that's one that you see very often at trade shows. And again, you know, with us, there are a couple different ways to go on it. We can either enhance their opportunity to succeed at the show by driving more traffic to their booth with maybe a little giveaway or special offer. But, you know, the reality is we could also save them a ton of money by literally being an alternative solution for them.
Yeah, and I also like the idea of geo framing with that, with a past event. You know, if it was 6 months ago and she missed
Right.
that opportunity, then she could gather those leads.
Right. And keep in mind that that location would have had to be geofenced prior, you know what I'm saying? In order for her to do that.
Oh, so you can't say, I sell Willie Nelson t-shirts, and then 6 months ago there was a Willie Nelson concert in Marysville, and geo-target all the people that were there.
Well, they would have had to be targeted at the time that they were there, because you have to physically, again, capture the mobile device ID. But
I see. So
that's why, like, for example, if somebody is, and again, that's why trade shows and events are you know, great examples of this, because those are the types of locations that businesses would want to geofence. So the idea would be they would have had to geofence that campaign in order to use the geoframing tactic.
I see. Okay. So it's more of a long-term strategy and
Right,
follow-up.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So yeah, in other words, if you've got if there was a client that wanted to consistently be involved in various different events and have us do the geofencing for them, and they would always have that information moving forward, and they could then go back 2 years.
So Bill, if there was an event going on now, but we knew we couldn't get everything set up in time for that event, how long would it take to set it up so we could at least gather the information of who's there?
Well, let's see. We would have to have the creative ready to go. In other words, you're talking about when you say you couldn't get it in time, what you would need if you're going to be geofencing the event and securing mobile device IDs, you would need to. Are you talking about running a campaign or not running a campaign in that particular case?
So not running the campaign now, just trying to gather the data now.
Oh, I see. Interesting. I don't know if we've ever run a campaign where, you know what I'm saying, where the person wasn't advertising at the same time. I'll check into that. I'll see what our capabilities would be for something like that, but I've never been asked that. Each of our clients has always had a campaign to run.
Got it.
Well,
and I'm looking at, okay, so we need to pick up the data now. It'd be like running on a past event. You know, so we're trying to catch their data, even though we're not ready to send anything out to them.
Right. Yeah, I think it would make a lot more sense to, run a campaign and then have us geofence those locations and then have the ability to go back and, retarget those people using geoframing on the next campaign.
Okay, that's not kind of the way I understood it worked. So thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
So a couple of things you mentioned during your presentation. I think as a group, we really want to be able to have our marketing message be as irresistible and convert as well as possible. So you talked about the creative, and just for anybody that doesn't know what that means, that's all the different ads, the headline, a little bit of copy, a call to action, an image, etc. And I think what we want to include in that is, or what I'm guessing that you ask people during your intake is, what are their goals? Who specifically is their target market? What is their USP or unique selling proposition? And I use the phrase, what's unique, special, different, and better. You said put your best foot forward. I would also add, what's a problem that someone can solve? Like I've had my marketing mentor used the phrases vitamin marketing and aspirin marketing. If somebody has pain or a problem, it's much easier to sell something to them than if their life is pretty good and maybe someday it could get better, like the vitamin sort of educational marketing. So I wanted to see, and then of course, an irresistible offer that's, not involving a bunch of time or energy or money. It's just something valuable, something discounted, like you said, that we can deliver easily.
Right. Well, we have quite a few questions that we ask all of our prospects that we're talking to. We'll ask them questions like, where do people go before they come to you? We'll
Yeah.
ask, what does your core audience look like? Because, we don't want to know if there is an occasional person, driving from 80 miles out. We want to know, okay, what is your core audience? In other words, what's 60 to 80% of your, what distance are 60 to 80% of your people coming from? Is it 5 miles? Is it 10 miles? We want to kind of figure out what kind of trading radius we're looking at. Let's see. We also ask about their competition. Who are their top competitors? Which locations would they want to geofence? We'll ask them about psychographics. In other words, what specifically does your best prospect look like? What's the age and gender? What's the household income? I mean, again, we've got 2,000 data points to work off of. So we've got plenty of questions, but the whole idea for us is to really drill down, get an idea as to what their challenges are, what their goals are, and because that's going to help us determine which tactics are the best ones to use to solve their challenge.
Excellent.
So Bill, one question I have is you've talked about landing pages and stuff. Is that something that's included in the package or in that $1,500 say, or is that add-ons that you need to pay for to get things started?
Right. And I'm glad we've got an expert like Jim on because he can probably jump in on this as well. But what we do is this. We charge for the impressions that we deliver. The only charge beyond that is for creative. So if we were to create, say, 7 to 9 display ads for you, and again, it would all be the same basic ad, but we would just reconfigure it so that it could run across all devices in different sizes. The cost for that is $350. It's a one-time charge. Another option, if you wanted to run a video campaign, I can tell you, again, based on my experience working for some of the major companies out there, I know most of them charge approximately $2,000 for a 30-second, I should say, commercial. But our producer, who's based here in Sacramento, charges about $1,200 and actually does a better job than those bigger companies. But far as getting back to landing pages, what I can tell you is this: it's not a small task to build a landing page. I'm sure Jim can jump in and add on that. But I spoke to a number of different web developers about landing pages over the past year, and the majority of them actually told me that they charge about the same amount for a landing page as they do to build out a full website. We're talking maybe roughly $4,000. And so I actually made a bunch of calls, and I also talked to Jim, and I know now Jim has got the capability of creating landing pages at an affordable price. So Jim, why don't you jump in on that?
Thank you. I'm not on mute.
Good.
I will show you. Can you guys see my screen now?
Well, let me
Nope.
stop sharing mine.
Oh, yeah. How about now?
I see it.
Okay. I was just going to show you guys. This is something I'm working on for a client. So this is a reverse mortgage company. You can probably guess who. And
Yep.
One thing we have yet to do on a landing page, you want people to go right to your call to action. And so we brainstormed possible headlines and we have this joyous couple like in a Zen pose. So the image is creating the feelings that we want people to go to. And then the model that I've shared with you guys several times is grab their attention. So we have that. Then compassionately relate to their problem or challenge. Are inflation and rising gas prices crushing you? That grabs my attention and it's timely, right? Do you want clear-cut answer? So then you give them hope and tell them what's in it for them and have a clear call to action, book a free consultation. And then that takes us right to this consultation and they fill out this form and done. And one thing I have yet to do is to remove this top navigation so that it's really truly, so all these buttons, it looks like multiple calls to action, but they all go to the form. So as soon as people get enough information, so this is like, look out, there are people that will rip you off in the reverse mortgage industry. And here's what we do differently. And then what's the best option for you? Are you eligible? And again, it's really like, if you want your questions answered, just sign up for this free, no pressure consultation, and they'll take as much time as you need. So hopefully that's a helpful example of a landing page. And yes, I was able to do that well, I helped with all the content as well, so that it ended up being a little over $1,500. So I'm trying to provide it is a lot of work, but I'm trying to provide solutions for people that want to do ad campaigns and send them to a place where you have the right marketing model. It's alluring, it's irresistible, and you can collect their information and then follow up, which is tremendously valuable. And that form is actually HTML code that's designed to link up with his Salesforce CRM. So that integration was also included in that package. Does that answer your question, Venice?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look good to me, Jim.
Yeah, thanks. I was going to send it to you this morning because I'm excited about how it's turning out.
Great.
Any other questions? Thank you guys so much, everybody, for being here. I know we have a lot going on in our lives. Bill, thank you so much for your expertise and just friendly nature. And I learned a lot. I'm excited that we recorded this, and I'll publish that and send a copy to everybody if you want to look at it again.
Great.
Have a great day, everybody. We'll see
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thanks.
We'll see you on the first Thursday of November.
Sounds good. Bye,
Y'all
everybody.
have a good week.
Take care.